In celebration of Al Capone's birthday coming up here on January 17th, you'd be only 118 years old. Actually, I probably was around back then. He could have been 150, 200, 300 years old, still been around. Actually, this guy was a great guy. Believe it or not. Do not believe everything you hear in the newspapers and the media. And I'm going to go over some of the quotes by Al Capone. Um, Actually, Alfonso Capone, right? Actually, really, that's what his real name was. Alfonso Gabriel Capone, known as Capone, and not said the Italian way. But I'll tell you one thing. One thing that reminded me of this is one of the Sicilians at work. He's full-blooded Sicilian from Chicago originally. Came down to Florida back in the late 70s or the mid 70s. Yeah, he reminded me of that. It's Al Capone's birthday, coming up January 17th. Now, actually, I knew somebody else from Illinois near the Chicago area. His father used to run a hotel near the train tracks, and on that hotel there was a fake floor. So, in other words, you took an elevator and it would bypass this this floor, and even though it was there, you didn't know it was there. The way they had the windows or something, I don't know what it was. There was no windows on his floor. But that's where the gang used to hang out. It was over by the train station. Now, Al Capone actually was very popular in its time with the average person. What we see looking back, we hear the garbage from the major media. Capone actually reveled in a lot of attention. The real mafia basically doesn't. I'll tell you that right now. They really don't like attention at all. But he used to get a lot of cheers from the spectators when he appeared at baseball games, and he made a lot of donations to various charities, and was viewed by many of the population as a modern-day Robin Hood. Because you have to remember what was going on at this time. It was the Great Depression. Now, he became nicknamed Public Enemy #1 after the St. Valentine's Massacre. Now, if you look at the which, I don't know, he never got charged with that. He's been believed to be behind it, but, he got nailed for tax evasion, which the IRS, the biggest criminal element in the freaking planet, they'll tell you the truth, but not really the most stellar thing to get nailed on because, he made money, and whether it's illegal money or legal money, it gets taxed. That's the way they are. I'm going to actually go over some of the quotes from Al Capone. You might find some of them very interesting, and I'll give you a different picture of them. But I also want to show you that back in, and he was like, if he was living today, he'd be the most anti-feminist guy going, which puts him very high in my book. Capone showed promise as a student back in Catholic school, but he had trouble with the rules at a strict parochial Catholic school. His schooling ended at age 14 after he was expelled for punching out a female teacher in the face. So,
you can't do that.
oh, too bad. So that's the end of that. Actually, I think there ought to be a lot of Capones in school. There'd be the end of that garbage. But let me just get on it with some of the quotes by Al Capone. Now, this is kind of common sense. You might not like the first one, but the second one you might like. You can get much further with a kind word and a gun than you can with just a kind word alone, which goes along with, is the pen mightier than the sword, as they talk about. And I'm actually going to tell you some other things about that in the future, because the average soldier in our country that fights for our nation allows everybody to be scribes in the media and all that kind of garbage and have the freedom to speak, right? So in a lot of ways, you could take this connotation of the first one, whether you like it or not, in a criminal element, or was he a criminal? I don't even know, because the law itself was criminal if you really think about it, and that's why the law was repealed. I'll tell you a lot about why Prohibition actually came about, and that was why Al Capone made a lot of money. Now, but we're going to go on to another phrase of his. Capitalism is the legitimate racket of the ruling class, which implies something. The ruling class owns everybody else. It's the legitimate racket, but it's a racket. It's crooked. It's a crooked thing that the ruling class do. That's what capitalism is. That's you could define capitalism as laissez-faire capitalism, small business capitalism, you know, home business capitalism or whatever, cottage industry capitalism, that's a different thing. But you have the ruling class monopolistic capitalism. That's criminal as all hell. And he goes on, I am like any other man. I also do is supply and demand. Now, I want to tell you something first before we get into some of these other expressions and some of these other comments I'm going to make. Prohibition came about by John D. Rockefeller in particular. Why did he want prohibition? He gave $4 million way back, I think it was in the early 1900s, to help the women's suffrage movement to try to also ban the manufacture and sale of alcohol. Why did he do that? Because alcohol was a major competitor. Alcohol from the farmers that made, alcohol, which was moonshine, and you can run your Ford Model T on alcohol, or you can go in the city and buy John D. Rockefeller's gasoline from Standard Oil. John D. Rockefeller didn't like the competition from the farmers, so how is he going to get that illegal? He moved to back financially, which was big bucks back. Not 4 million today is way different from 4 million back in the early 1900s. It's probably like 80 million or something or more, right? I mean, a house back in 1920 might be $2,000 or $3,000 a whole house. So imagine what $4 million was back in the early 1900s, not alone 1920. So he gave them that kind of money to help ban the sale and manufacture of alcohol in this country because he didn't like the competition from the farmers. And Henry Ford wanted all his cars to be fueled by farm produce, and he was a big advocate of hemp, providing the gasoline where we'd have hempoline. So all this really came about not because of some religious thing, even though the religious people were used for this purpose. It came about mainly because of John D. Rockefeller. And people still wanted their booze. But, unfortunately, it killed all the industry in hemp, which was going to go really big in the 1940s later on, and they made it illegal. But, that was a little bit after Al Capone. But not only liquor, but also fuel. See what I'm saying? So here you had a Great Depression going on, and fuel could be grown locally by anybody, and it's illegal to do that. That's another aspect of this whole thing. It wasn't even just about drinking. So when he sells liquor, he says it's called, Al Capone sells liquor, it's called bootlegging. When it goes through the system and the patrons serve it on Lakeshore Drive, it's called hospitality. So why is it different when he's selling it to them and it's, and they go to a bar, it's okay, right? And then he goes on, vote early and vote often, because, the Chicago political machine was rigged. Prohibition has made nothing but trouble. He's correct about that. And that's why that law was repealed. I mean, now here he goes on to criticize the politicians. A crook is a crook, and there's something healthy about his frankness in that matter. Crook is saying, yeah, I'm a crook. Okay. But any guy who pretends he is enforcing the law and steals on his authority is a swell snake. The worst type of these punks is the big politician, which can be the politician, it could be the cops, it could be the DA, it could be the judges, it could be all of them, They can't collect legal taxes from illegal money. Well, he found out that's not true because the government says we'll collect taxes no matter what the source of the money was. And that's how he got in trouble. My rackets are run strictly on American lines, and they're going to stay that way. So he was a true guy. That was sticking with the USA. So not as bad as you think. Actually, this guy was way better than most of the politicians we have currently in office. Supposedly he's the bad guy. Now, Hildebeest, I got to bring her up. She never freaking did anything for anybody except was one of the most crooked pieces of garbage on the planet that worked for the government and collect money at the taxpayer's trough. At least this guy provided something to the public that they wanted. And he had to provide it at the right price. Because, you can't force people to drink. People wanted to drink. That's what happened. But, the other side of it is this. When they outlawed alcohol, the sale and manufacture of alcohol, the real reason for that, I got to repeat that again because some people maybe not get it, was John D. Rockefeller really did that. It wasn't a moral reason. He did not like the competition for his Standard Oil gasoline product that was sold in the cities. He's getting competition from the farmers out in the countryside. He didn't want that competition. He wanted all the cars to be able to use his product. That's why they had prohibition. Now, Robert De Niro, yeah, he portrayed Al Capone in the movies, right? I got no respect for Robert De Niro at all. Period. Hillary Clinton supporter. Get lost. You're a phony, a frake, and you're an actor. Thank you. Anyway, so that's all that is. Now, again, I just want to point out, during this time of Prohibition, you got to remember, we had the worst depression going on in the United States we ever had. We're probably coming up to this time again. Who knows? I don't know. I think we are, to tell you the truth. U.S. government is basically at $20 trillion worth of debt. We're also seeing the agreement between the Saudis and the Russians to limit oil production, which is going to bring up the prices of oil, which is going to bring up the price of not only just oil, but in home heating and gasoline for cars, but also the transportation cost on all the goods, and also agricultural products, because agriculture is very, very energy intensive. So that's going to be a big deal, man. So I think we're coming up to these times, and I'm not saying Al Capone is a saint, but he's nowhere near as bad as a lot of the politicians we've had in office over the past, especially like the Clintons and the Bushes. Now, Al Capone died of syphilis, basically. He had syphilis. He was showing early signs of syphilis back when he was first on trial for tax evasion. Syphilis can be cured. It could have been cured way back then. I could have cured him. He could be still alive today. But I'd rather see Al Capone in the White House than freaking Hillary Clinton. But we got Trump, so I don't know what the hell is going to happen with him. But anyway, I just got to put this thing out because as a reminder. And also, you got to remember, the other side of it is the goods. The goods that, Al Capone liked the ladies, which I respect a lot for. He always had nice ladies around him. And, these women, I know the Christians freaking rag on these women left and right. There's a courtesan, this and that. And, you're selling your body and blah, blah, whatever. I don't really think of that as an evil thing. That's almost like what I look at with prohibition, or I look at marriage as more evil, the way the freaking total court system is today. If you get an argument with your wife, the authorities will drag you away, even though she started the argument, and you'll be out there in the freaking court explaining to a judge with your attorney at $300 an hour, $250 or not $275 an hour or more, exactly what happened, and they'll make the money over it. Today, the biggest racket is that prostitution is probably a freaking more fair and square thing going on, except for the problems with venereal diseases. But that's probably all curable. We probably all know the methods to cure all that kind of stuff. Now, Al Capone, yeah, he got syphilis and he died from syphilis. He probably could have been cured and all that kind of crap even way back then. But you also got to look at the ladies who are providing the service, the women who are providing the service, and when they become, they get problems like that, with diseases or whatever, it's bad for business. It's bad for the merchandise they're providing and the services they're providing or whatever it is, and that all should be looked at and cured. But through the current established medical system, hang it up. I mean, yeah, they got syphilis cure. They don't even have all the cures for syphilis and gonorrhea with the new stuff out there. But a lot of their stuff they don't have. Just want to put that out here. But that's another racket you got to freaking realize that is out there, that alternative medicine is going to become more and more illegal, and there's a lot of disinformation in alternative medicine, just like there was bad booze out there. But Al Capone provided good booze, I think, for the most part. Not Robert De Niro, Al Capone. Now, Al Capone also had this nickname called Scarface, which he hated because he got scarred one time. And actually, with the right stuff, the scars could have been healed up 100%, and he would have been no scar. But, of course, like the news media, always likes to freaking put the name on you or a label that you hate. Like Babyface Nelson. Babyface Nelson. Hated that name, Babyface. So what did the news media do? Babyface. What the hell? These guys, the news media is a bunch of freaking weasels, man. And actually, I got to go back to that thing about you know the the gun and the talk and all that kind of crap. News media wouldn't exist. I know there's like the gun would use for the criminals and stuff like that, but you get much further with a kind word and a gun than you can with a kind word alone. But news media wouldn't exist if it wasn't for our American military. Our American military serves to protect their right to say anything they want. But, they're real quick to freaking throw stones at the American military if, oh, they did this, they did that, or whatever, fine. You know what I mean? It's big, I really can't, well, I'm in the media now, basically, but I got my own twist on things, whether they like it or not. I know probably the big wigs out there to control the YouTube and the Google probably don't like a lot of shit I say, but oh well, I'm still pammering away as much as I possibly can because I realize that, there's got to be a true alternative to the alternative voice, and I think I got it. So, just to give you another divergent topic on this channel, because I don't delve in one topic at all, ever. Just want to bring you up a reminder that Al Capone's birthday is coming up. He was born on January 17th, 1899. So, it's going to be January 17, year 17. How often does that happen? Every 100 years, right? So I don't know if that's some kind of a special number there. I don't know. You could make out what you want with the numerology. Don't know. But, as usual, the do-gooders pose as do-gooders. They pose like, oh, we got a problem. And honestly, he's right about some of this. Capitalism, or monopolistic capitalism, I should really phrase that with an adjective in front of it, is the legitimate racket of the ruling class. I am like any other man. All I do is supply a demand. When I sell liquor, it's called bootlegging. But when it goes through the supply chain and it gets to the bar, and my patrons serve it on Lakeshore Drive, it's called hospitality. Prohibition has made nothing but trouble. How true. And, I'll give you this last one or another one maybe. A crook is a crook, but there's something healthy about his frankness in that matter. But any guy who pretends he is enforcing the law and steals on his authority to enforce the law is a swell snake, a sweet-talking snake. The worst type of these punks, which includes a lot of people besides the big politician, but the worst of them is the big politician. And, hopefully Al Capone, if he was alive, I'd probably vote for him for president, over Hillary for sure, because at least he was an entrepreneur, right? And maybe he would drain the swamp, because the way he drained the swamp was with a baseball bat.
Let's have a meeting. Pow, 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 pow.
Yeah, you three are done. Anyway, that would be like the EPA the head, the Department of HUD, and the Department of Education. Pop, pop, pop. Yeah. Any other questions? Done. Anyway, so my rackets are run on strictly American lines, and they're going to stay that way. So, over and out. So, this guy wasn't a bad guy, actually, when you think about it. And I'm sure if he's up there in heaven right now, which he probably is, I'll tell you where hell is reserved for. Hell is reserved for loads of these holy talking fake quote unquote Christians. They're just as bad as the big politicians. If you're gonna freaking be doing what Christ said to do, just do it. Don't tell me about it. Don't tell me how much you believe and all this other crap, because most of those guys that are like religious, they be drinking Al Capone's booze provided, bars on Saturday night and going to church on Sunday. So who's, if he's in hell, they're in hell before he is. I don't think he's in hell. So anyway, this is kind of a video tribute to Al Capone. And like I said, I did know a guy that was, his father was in a mafia. He's older, man. He's like in his 70s now, but it was his father was actually in a real mafia, not the freaking fake mafia. And that was a long time ago. Long time ago. But he told me about the fake floor on a hotel near the train station where they used to have Al Capone's gang used to hide out, and that was somebody else in his family that owned that hotel. So, anyway, just figured I'd present this for just a point of interest. Some stuff you did not know, probably, and a little different twist and a little bit different angle on things because most of our major media doesn't tell the story the right way, and I'd like to tell the story the right way. And Robert De Niro, I mean, hopefully he portrayed this guy right, but I got no respect for Robert De Niro, man. Al Capone would have punched out Hillary Clinton and decked the crap out of her, including her daughter, and then he would have knocked out Bill. Robert De Niro kisses her ass. He's an actor. Just make sure that you know the difference.